soldier incoming.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gumi's Shotgun Fun Time. Now, recently, I've been trying to work on a video for the Model 680. I wanted to do something pertaining to a best class or something like that. I try a bunch of different ways to run the thing and see what works best for me. But when I look on YouTube and see what works best for other people, it's not always the same thing that works best for me. I see a lot of people running the choke with the sport barrel or the Marauder suppressor and things like that. Things that really elevate and help that range. Well, to be honest, those setups never worked for me personally. I've seen some really good plays with them, but for me, I just feel too slow and my aim down sights time feels so whack. I need to be able to aim down sights with some shots. Now, after showing off the 725 with the sawed-off barrel, I was thinking maybe these short barrels aren't half bad for the other shotguns. And one of my favorite ways to run the Model 680 in multiplayer now is with the SWAT barrel, which is the very short barrel. Usually with the idea that most pellets hitting the target is better, running a barrel like this that increases spread and hurts range is typically a no-no. But the point of these barrels is to get your movement and aim down sight speeds up and be able to close the gap and maneuver more efficiently. Now in multiplayer, where usually one shot is all it takes, it works pretty well most of the time. Sliding and jumping and running quickly is what makes this setup for me personally. This class doesn't work as well as the 725 with its spread and damage, but it works in other ways. So today, we are going to be taking a look at the Super Shorty Shotgun class for the Model 680 in Warzone, and with it we'll be using Slugs and Dragon's Breath to really make this thing work, and why I think it's actually kind of underrated. First, we'll check out some of the basic stats, and then I'll go into each class setup, so be sure to check out the timestamps for the descriptions on those classes. This class has a few different variations, but there are two main key components to it, and that is the no stock attachment and the SWAT barrel. These two attachments are key for ultimate movement speed. No stock we all know and love, but the SWAT barrel, if you didn't know, helps movement speed and adds aim down sight speed as well, or rather takes it away, at the cost of a wider spread and less range, and also you only have 5 shots instead of the typical 8 or 10 with the sport barrel. With no stock in the SWAT barrel, you get about 6.9% more movement speed, and it's really noticeable. Also, your aim down sight speed is much faster too, which is a huge plus for people like me who habitually aim down sights with shotguns. So since we're modeling this gun after the Super Shorty shotgun, Google that if you've never seen it, the grip is something that comes to mind to use. Ideally, this class would be better without it though, because it does penalize our movement speed, but hey, it looks cool, so we'll try and work it in some way, and it does make you aim down sights a bit quicker as well. Now, for range, the SWAT barrel hurts our range by a whopping 18%, and that's a lot, and yeah, it's noticeable. But to counteract this, we'll be using not only the choke, which is only a 4% boost to range, but also Dragon's Breath and Slugs. That's right, we're going to use Slugs on a Super Shorty shotgun, which works surprisingly well, to be honest. Now normally with just Buckshot, our 2-tap range is cut from about 5 meters to about 4.1-ish, and that's a pretty hefty nerf for a gun like this. That's a 2-tap for a pump action. That's ridiculously bad. While Buckshot is cool and all though, if you want to run this barrel, I say go ahead and throw on Dragon's Breath or Slugs. First, we'll take a look at Dragon's Breath. If you didn't know, Dragon's Breath adds a few ticks of burn damage after an initial hit of pellet damage. EOD is a counter to this, with ticks taking slightly less health at a slower rate, but it's still possible to kill EOD kitted players, of course. The nice thing about it is it can increase our technical 2-shot range because of the burn effect, so even though they survive those 2 shots, the burn after the second shot can kill them. The range for this to effectively happen is about 6.5-ish meters, and that's really awesome actually, but the problem is you have to take your 2 shots and then wait for the burn to kick in, which can take maybe a second or so. Also, it does suffer from the problem that the R90 does, in that it's pretty inconsistent. Sometimes it works and other times it takes 4 shots. It just depends on spread and how well you hit your shots. This is why the choke comes in handy with this class, because it kind of helps get our pellets on target just a tiny bit better. Dragon's Breath is a great way to make your shotgun a bit better as well, and more forgiving if you hit your shots. But be warned, you gotta get really close to make it work effectively, and you have to be able to weave in and out of cover, which is a little bit easier since you have such high mobility with this setup. Next up, let's take a look at Slugs. Now this is a hilarious way to run the Shorty, and it actually works pretty dang well, and it's kind of how the Mark II carbine I think think should feel in Warzone. To be honest, I think this might actually be a bit better, which is weird. Slugs, as you know, give us a one-shot headshot range of up to about 2.6 meters with the Model 680. After that, it's always a two-shot headshot, but you can two-tap stomach and up to about 12 meters, and then chest and up to about 41. So slugs are really rewarding, but really punishing to many players who can't really get the aiming down pat. With the Shorty barrel, that two-shot range for stomach is going to be about 10.7 meters. With chest, you can still get them up to about 32 meters. And yeah, you heard that right, two shots up to 30 meters. The problem though is slugs, as you know, are wildly inaccurate at times, with the slug projectile not always going where you want it to go, almost like it has a bit of spread, if you will, but it's really just coming from the barrel at a weird angle essentially. So you feel like you hit your shot, but really the slug veered off to the left or something. It's not always noticeable up close, which is where you kind of should be using this, but once you start getting to medium range, you're going to notice you miss your shots a little bit more. You can also help this by using the choke attachment, so generally I advise the choke on this slug class. It works pretty well, especially since this is mostly for still close quarters and not really medium range. In Plunder, you can kind of make it work further out, but in real games, I would avoid it so you don't give yourself away. One thing people are probably wondering is why not use the Marauder suppressor? Well, it does give you more range than any other shotgun attachment, and it basically makes using the swap barrel equivalent to using the Liberator barrel on its own, but it hurts aim down sight speed by a lot and movement speed as well, even though it doesn't say it in the stats, so you won't be getting that max mobility, which is really what we want. Also, the grips, like I said, are okay. You can use it if you really want that cool look, to be honest, but if you want tip-top mobility, use something like sleight of hand or the choke instead. So now that we have the basic stats covered for slugs and dragon's breath, let's check out the class setups that I recommend. For all of these, the no stock and swap barrel attachments are a given, so I won't be mentioning them, but for buckshot, use the Merc foregrip, the 5mm laser, and sleight of hand. Yeah, this is not the fastest movement speed possible technically, but I wanted to honor the super shorty feel of the gun, and this is the best class for that, I think. The 5mm laser does decrease the spread, but it helps the mobility, which is essential for me. The sprint at time boost is why I always recommend the 5mm laser, because the 680 has a pretty slow sprint at time on its own. For dragon's breath, use dragon's breath of course, the choke, and the 5mm laser. If instead you want to run the grip or sleight of hand, trade the choke for this. Just remember that technically it isn't max mobility if you run the grip, but hey, it looks cool and your spread is wider, so maybe you have a better chance of hitting the target up close. Then for slugs, use slugs of course, the choke, and the 5mm laser. While I think the other classes can kind of get away with using the grip instead of the choke, for slugs I generally advise to use it because you can get as accurate as you can possibly be and leave a little bit less to random chance. That being said though, for these classes, Dragon's Breath and Buckshot, if you don't want to deal with the choke and you want to embrace the wide spread, which can help super close, then take it off and use the grip or sleight of hand like I said. There is no real one best class setup that fits all type of class, so I like to offer my take and then give you guys alternatives to them, so hopefully that helps. So now that you know a little bit more about this shotgun, I want to know, what do you guys think about this setup? It's really unorthodox. A lot of people probably wouldn't see running this barrel as a good thing, but it kind of works if you're someone like me who loves to get more up close and personal and be really, really fast, because like I said, the other barrels and the other attachments just make me feel so slow. Even if it's not that much, I feel like it's the placebo effect where I feel like I'm just so sluggish, even though I'm really not that bad. But this, I feel like I can whiz around corners. I feel like I am so much more mobile, and it really does help. And I at least encourage you guys to try it out. And specifically, go try out the Dragon's Breath and Slugs version of this class. I think it's going to make this gun a little bit more usable. And the swap barrel, I think it needs to get a little bit more love because it kind of looks cool, and also it's just so much fun to go whizzing around the map with such a small little shotgun and then blast them with a slug. It's ridiculous. It's hilarious. I really encourage you guys to go try it, and let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these setups? Have you ever tried this barrel before? Do you think it works better than the 725's barrel? And with all that being said, I want to see you guys in the next video.